Imagine a single library containing the knowledge of the entire world, a place where Euclid wrote the foundations of geometry, where Hero of Alexandria designed the world's first steam engine, and where a scholar calculated the Earth's circumference with shocking accuracy. Now imagine all of it, hundreds of thousands of scrolls, the cumulative genius of centuries, gone in a matter of hours. For over 2 millennia, we've been told a simple story. One catastrophic fire destroyed the Library of Alexandria, plunging the world into a dark age. But what if that story is a lie? What if the truth is more complex, more tragic, and even more chilling? And what if the real tragedy wasn't a single event, but a slow, deliberate death that we can now, for the first time, piece back together? In this video, we're not just going to tell you the real story of the library's demise. We're going to walk through its fabled halls, read the lost scrolls of forgotten geniuses, and reveal how its survival could have launched a scientific revolution 1,000 years early. By the end of this video, you'll see why the loss of this single institution changed the course of human history forever. To understand what was lost, you must first understand the impossible dream that brought it to life. After Alexander the Great's death, his empire was split among his generals. Ptolemy I Soter, a clever and ambitious ruler, took Egypt and founded the new capital of Alexandria. He envisioned more than just a city of power. He wanted a global intellectual center. The audacious idea for a universal library, a place to gather all human knowledge, was likely first proposed by the Athenian statesman Demetrius of Phalerum. While Ptolemy I laid the groundwork, it was his son, Ptolemy II, who truly brought this grand vision into being. The library wasn't a standalone building. It was the heart of a sprawling research institution known as the Museion, or Shrine of the Muses. Think of it as the world's first research university. This complex was a hive of activity, complete with lecture halls, lush gardens for quiet contemplation, and living quarters for scholars who were paid to dedicate their lives to discovery. Although direct archaeological evidence is scarce, historical accounts suggest the Museion housed specialized facilities, from an observatory for studying the stars to dissection rooms for anatomical research. The Ptolemaic kings were ruthless in their pursuit of knowledge. They sent agents across the Mediterranean to buy or borrow any scroll they could find. But their methods were, at times, more like piracy. A royal decree mandated that any ship docking in Alexandria had to surrender its books. Scribes would then furiously copy the texts, keeping the priceless originals for the library and returning the copies to the unfortunate owners. One famous story tells of Ptolemy III tricking Athens by paying a massive security deposit for the original manuscripts of the great tragedians, only to forfeit the money and keep the priceless scrolls. This obsessive drive paid off. At its peak, the Great Library is estimated to have held between 400,000 and 700,000 papyrus scrolls. The collection was a multicultural tapestry, with works not only from Greek civilization, but also from Egyptian, Babylonian, and Jewish traditions, all translated into Greek. But here's what's often forgotten. This vast ocean of knowledge was useless without a map. This challenge fell to a brilliant scholar and poet named Callimachus. He took on the monumental task of creating the world's first library catalogue, a 120-volume masterpiece known as the Pinnaces. This wasn't a simple list. It was a bibliographic system that organized the entire collection by subject like rhetoric, history, or medicine. Within each category, authors were listed alphabetically, along with a short biography and a list of their works. This system was the birth of modern bibliography, a concept that would shape how we organize information for the next 2 millennia. The library attracted the greatest minds of its time, offering them a generous stipend, free room and board, and tax exemptions. It was in these very halls that Euclid wrote his Elements, laying the foundations of geometry that are still taught today. The head librarian, Eratosthenes, calculated the circumference of the Earth with astounding accuracy, using the angle of the sun's shadow in 2 different cities. This evidence has never been shown before in such detail, and it highlights how far ahead of its time this institution truly was. But perhaps the most shocking genius of all was Hero of Alexandria. Wait until you see what he invented here. While his aeolipile or steam engine is well known as a novelty, his lost treatises revealed schematics for automated temple doors, complex hydraulic systems, and even a programmable cart, a true forerunner of modern robotics. This was a world on the cusp of an industrial revolution, fueled not by coal, but by sheer intellectual power. So, what happened to this pinnacle of human achievement? The popular story blames a single dramatic fire started by Julius Caesar in 48 BCE. While Caesar's campaign did lead to a fire in the harbor that likely damaged a warehouse full of scrolls, the library itself survived. For centuries after, scholars continued to work there. The truth, as historians now understand it, is far more tragic. The library didn't die overnight. It suffered a slow, painful death by 1,000 cuts. The decline began with a series of political purges. In 145 BCE, Ptolemy VIII, a ruler who feared intellectuals, expelled all foreign scholars from Alexandria. Then came waves of physical destruction. A major war under the Roman Emperor Aurelian in 272 CE caused widespread damage to the royal quarter where the main library stood. One of the most devastating blows came in 391 CE with the destruction of the Serapeum. This magnificent temple housed a daughter library for the overflow collection. In an increasingly Christian Alexandria, the Serapeum was seen as the last great pagan sanctuary. Following an imperial edict, a Christian mob led by Patriarch Theophilus razed the temple and its library to the ground. This act was not just the destruction of a building, it was the final nail in the coffin of the classical intellectual tradition in Alexandria. It was in this climate of religious intolerance and violence that the brilliant female philosopher and mathematician Hypatia met her end. She was the last great scholar to carry the legacy of the library, and she was brutally murdered by a Christian mob in 415 CE. Her death is often seen as the symbolic end of classical antiquity in Alexandria. The final story of the Arab conquest using scrolls for fuel is now widely dismissed by scholars as a later fabrication. The true story is one of gradual decay, neglect, and purposeful destruction. For centuries, the library was a ghost. But what if we could bring it back? Using advanced AI and every shred of surviving information, we've created a virtual resurrection of this lost world. The AI consumed every historical description of the library and Museion, every surviving fragment of a lost work, and every detail from the summaries of Callimachus's Pinakes. Its task was not just to render a building, but to reconstruct an entire ecosystem of thought. Imagine standing in the royal quarter, the white marble glowing under the Egyptian sun. You walk through lush gardens where scholars once debated and enter the Peripatos, a covered walkway designed to encourage conversation. Inside, the scale is breathtaking. The air smells of papyrus and cedar oil. The main hall is vast, with columns reaching for a coffered ceiling painted with stars, a tribute to the astronomy practiced here. The heart of the library is in the stacks, hundreds of niches filled with scrolls, each with a small wooden tag called a syllabus that serves as a physical key to Callimachus's catalogue. With the AI as our guide, we can read the lost scrolls. Let's unroll the Carcharodonica, the lost history of Carthage, written by the Roman Emperor Claudius. For centuries, we've only had Rome's side of the story. Claudius, a meticulous historian, gathered the last Punic records to write his account. The AI, by analyzing his writing style and surviving fragments, reconstructs the text, allowing us to read about Hannibal not as a monster, but as a patriot. Now let's turn to science. The AI finds a scroll by Aristarchus of Samos. 2 millennia before Copernicus, he proposed a detailed heliocentric model of the solar system. While the basic idea survived through the works of others like Archimedes, his mathematical proofs were lost. The AI reconstructs his arguments, revealing a vision of cosmic mechanics that was snuffed out, forcing humanity to wait another 2,000 years for the same realization. This final detail will change everything. Having walked the halls and read the lost scrolls, we must ask the most tantalizing question of all. What if the library had never fallen? We asked our AI to extrapolate, to generate a vision of an alternate timeline. The period we call the Dark Ages might not even exist. Instead of a rebirth of knowledge, you would have had acceleration. The scientific revolution could have kicked off 1,000 years earlier. By the 10th century, the heliocentric model would have been an accepted fact. In this alternate reality, Hero's work on pneumatics and hydraulics could have led to a limited industrial revolution in the Middle Ages. Advanced anatomical knowledge could have led to germ theory centuries earlier, saving millions of lives. The age of discovery might have become an age of exchange, with explorers using accurate maps based on Eratosthenes' calculations. By the 17th or 18th century, this world would be unrecognizable, with technology and philosophy centuries ahead of our own. The survival of the library would have changed our very relationship with knowledge. This journey into the past, while a simulation, has a real-world echo. To learn more about this incredible story, you can visit the modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina in Egypt. Its stunning architectural design is meant to evoke the sun rising over the sea, and it houses several museums, including one for manuscripts and another for antiquities. For further reading, we recommend the books The Vanished Library by Luciano Canfora and Libraries in the Ancient World by Lionel Casson, which provides scholarly insights into this legendary institution. The story of the Library of Alexandria is not just a tragedy, it's a profound warning. The library was more than a collection of scrolls, it was an idea. It was the belief that knowledge is precious, fragile, and humanity's most powerful tool. The loss of Alexandria reminds us that progress is not inevitable and that civilizations can forget. Today, we are the librarians of a new digital age, with our own vast repository of knowledge. The ghost of Alexandria asks us a final, haunting question. What are we doing to ensure that our knowledge doesn't suffer the same fate? If you find this journey into history and alternate realities as fascinating as we do, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell. You won't want to miss the next lost world we bring back to life.